Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the Novamos Shan Hai, an aerospace grade titanium mechanical watch that is going to, I feel, very much divide opinion. Now I've seen on social media this to be the case, with plenty who see beauty, but also plenty who see a beast of a watch. Now I'm not here to give you my thoughts on the design of this watch, but more so focus on the specification of it, the build quality and its respective Kickstarter information. Now I'll do my very best to get really up close and personal with it and look at every single aspect of this watch, as I always try to do in all my reviews, and very much leave my thoughts on its design to one side. I mean, after all, whether or not someone would actually wear this on their wrist and whether or not someone actually likes it, it's all subjective. Now I road tested this watch in and around the lovely little town of Knaresborough on a very mild, misty and very autumnal day, including in and around the wonderful Knaresborough Viaduct, and of course Mother Shipton's cave, shrouded in eerie legends, which sits beside a sinister petrifying well that actually turns objects and even flowers to stone, echoing the dark prophecies of the infamous witch who once dwelled there. And of course I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this watch, so please do leave me a comment at the end of my vid and hit the subscribe button now for more watch reviews in the future. So let's get started. So just to reiterate what was said in the 90-second spec, this, the Novamos Shan Hai, I measured comes in at 13mm thick, 50mm in diameter, 44mm lug to lug, 24mm at the lug, with its genuine leather strap tapering down to 20mm by the time it gets to its signed buckle. And the Novamos Shan Hai is available in Quicksilver, Reddish Cherry Blossom, Amber Yellow, Deep Sea Blue, Green Sea Green, and this, the Obsidian Black. Now usually after talking about the dimensions and available colourways, I systematically go through the watch, starting at the dial, then the hands, and then move outwards towards the case, the crystal, etc, etc. But I do think that we just need to flip it for this review and start at this case, because, well, I mean, it's not just the key feature of this watch, it's by far the standout and defining characteristic of this watch. The case of the Shan Hai is crafted with some seriously cool precision stamping tech. Think 50 tons of pressure applied in 12 stages just to whip up enough rough blank on a titanium metal plate. From there it gets an hour-long pampering session with a 6-axis CNC engraving machine that meticulously carves out those textures you see at the top of the dial. But the real magic happens in a vacuum, where it's then heated up to a sizzling 1100 degrees centigrade and left to cool down over 24 hours. And the result is a naturally formed, delicate network of veins on the surface, kind of like ice flowers blooming across the titanium. Now as you can see, this texture on the case is the defining characteristic of this watch, and that texture is there to resemble mountains and the sea. Now regardless if this design is your cup of tea, I don't think there's any denying that the primary design objective of this watch is perfectly achieved. The design captures a half mountain half sea vibe, blending rugged peaks with serene waves. Novamos say that it's a perfect balance of nature's power and tranquility, all wrapped into a sleek timepiece. And I guess with that in mind, it's easier to start appreciating where the ethos of this design really comes from. Now the case feels very smooth on the side and is slightly matte and has that brushed surface vibe, and I don't know if it's just me, but it definitely is cooler to the touch, giving it an almost refreshed feel. Now I would absolutely love to know what you feel about this case design, so please do let me know in the comments below. Okay, so the dial. Now in contrast to that rugged rocky case, the dial of the Shan Hai immediately catches the eye with its intricacy, and as you can see it's skeletonized and it showcases the movement, which I'll come to in a second. Now the dial itself is off center to the right of the case and measures in at only 25mm in diameter, and the reorb that surrounds it perfectly blends depth to that dial from the case and showcases the N element of the Novamos logo at the 12 o'clock position, with the minute markers thereafter in the design of what seem to be teardrops, with slightly bigger teardrops at the 5-minute intervals. Now the hands of the Shan Hai are very petite, not very bold at all, but as I say, very petite against the backdrop of that movement, so there are some legibility issues when reading the time. But then, as I say, the dial only measures in at 25mm in diameter on what is a very big 50mm diameter case, so I guess the introduction of bolder hands might just not have worked. They are dolphin hands featuring a classic tapered triangular shape, but actually for me the second hand is the star of the show with regards to the hands. It's a curved steel hand, very intricate, counterbalanced, and features a bird on its tip that, according to Novamos, is inspired by the saying, "It's not that the bird cannot fly over the ocean, but there is no longer anything waiting on the other side." I mean, that's pretty deep, and pretty sad really. Sad as in crying sad. And protecting that dial is a dome sapphire crystal with blue anti-reflective coating and has a Mohs hardness level of 9, and that's second only to diamond. Now as I wandered through the very quiet streets of Knaresborough, and I must say a very misty and very eerie Knaresborough here in North Yorkshire, the sapphire performed okay, though with the hands being so delicate and difficult to see, all I saw was the movement, which actually wasn't such a bad experience in itself. There is Swiss Lume applied to the hands and the hour markers, and also the bird on the second hand, giving off a strong cool lume. Now in the absence of some real information from Novamos about this lume, I guess there's not really much else I can say about it, so let's just appreciate it a little longer. The push-pull crown sitting neatly at 3 o'clock is fairly big, spherical in its shape, not knurled but big enough for that not to be an issue, and is embossed with the Novamos logo. Now this watch sports a water resistance rating of 50 meters or 5 ATM. So in practical terms, 5 ATM means the watch can handle the pressure equivalent of activities like washing your hands, showering, or even bathing. It doesn't mean that the watch is waterproof down to 50 meters, but rather that it can withstand the pressure of a 50-meter water column. So please do keep it out of the swoon baths, and please do keep it out of the ocean. And actually, because of the low water resistance of this watch, there wasn't any part of me that was tempted to jump into the River Nid, which is a lovely little river that winds through Knaresborough in a tranquil yet hauntingly beautiful path, carving deep limestone gorges and reflecting the town's towering cliffs, quaint cottages and dense woodland in its dark, glassy waters. Inside the Shan Hai ticks the Hangzhou 6600A mechanical movement, 28 joules, 28,800 bph, a power reserve of 38 hours, hacking. And okay, so it's a Chinese mechanical movement, but actually one that I feel looks like a pretty little neat movement that's certainly I feel really nice on the eye. And that movement is contained behind this screw down exhibition caseback that features a rotor with the N element of the Novamos logo. A little isolated I feel, but perhaps delicate enough not to overpower the look of that rotor. Now I never ever thought I'd say this when reviewing the watch, but this caseback has got a sneaky little storage compartment. Yep, that's a storage compartment, which I guess is perfect for stashing whatever you want to carry that's small enough to fit into it. Now it's not easy to open with short fingernails, so here it is opened. Okay, so unsure why Novamos decided in their design process to think that a secret compartment in the caseback was a good idea, but perhaps it was to reduce the amount of titanium used in the case, and I guess that it's the perfect little compartment if you're a pillhead. And weirdly, inside the compartment showcases your unique serial number of this watch. The Shan Hai comes with a genuine leather strap made in the USA. This is the black. It is changeable with the right tools and is pretty distinctly average. It's 24mm at the lugs and tapers down to 20mm by the time it gets to the side buckle. Now my guess is that Novamos wanted to give this a bit of a dressy feel with the introduction of a leather strap, but there is a huge part of me that is saying that they perhaps should have gone all out novelty and just said fuck it and stuck a dark grey titanium strap on it. I don't know. But it's a black leather strap on all the colourways with no other option on their Kickstarter campaign, but thankfully you can change it. On my 7.5-inch wrist, the Shan Hai wears But what can I say, it actually wears fairly comfortably. I mean, it's 50mm in diameter, coupled with a 13mm thickness, feels like a flying saucer has landed on my wrist. Think of the materials in the spaceships in the film Arrival. But then I think that impact is what was the desired effect when Novamos designed this watch. It's fairly lightweight, I weighed it in at 91 grams, and that's without the compartment containing all my pills. I think that these mountains on the left hand side of the case, it gives it the perception that it's thicker on the left hand side of the case in comparison to the right, especially with the delicate feel of that off-centered dial, so there is that illusion that it lacks weight symmetry, but all in all pretty comfortable. Speaking of which, I wore it on my right wrist around the very misty town of Knaresborough, wearing a pair of Nike Air SCs, a bit daft for this time of year, jeans, and a hoodie, and a super dry biker's jacket actually, and it looked okay with this attire, but when the watch slipped under the sleeve of my jacket, it very much hid the dial and exposed more of that textured titanium, so not great, but that's a problem that won't exist if you wear this on your left wrist. But in terms of how it performed with my casual attire, personally I'd say it looked okay. I mean, Novamos heavily market this watch as a bit of a dressy watch, with this cool looking corporate dude sporting it with an open collar shirt, a suit jacket, but I most certainly feel that this watch suits better casual attire. The Shan Hai at the moment is currently on Kickstarter as of today, the 27th of October 2024, with some availability left on a super early bird offering at $404 USD, which is around about 314 Great British Pounds or 377-ish euros, with a limited quantity available at that rate of only 50. But just to note that that price I've just said is solely for this black colourway. If you wanted to obtain one of the more colourful variants, then that rate is currently available as of today at an early bird rate of 456 USD, or around about 354 Great British Pounds or 425-ish euros, and there are other options too available on the Kickstarter campaign that allows you to buy in more than one quantity and mixing the black with the colourful option, for example, so please do check out their Kickstarter campaign, details of which can be found in the link in the description below. And note that the campaign will end on Thursday the 7th of November 2024. As I speak now, it's fully funded, so well done Novamos, and Novamos actually hope to get this in production and then onto your wrist by the end of November 2024. So this is a very quick turnaround and you won't have to wait long for your own Shan Hai. So one thing that I think that we can all perhaps agree on is that the Novamos Shan Hai is a striking testament to the artistry of watchmaking, particularly thanks to its standout titanium case. Now this design is really definitely subjective. Some will absolutely adore its quirky look, calling it a beautiful piece of art that challenges traditional watch aesthetics. Others, however, might view it as overly bold or even beastly, wondering how it could possibly fit into their everyday style. Now, it would be great to hear what you think about this watch on my wrist, and also about my vid as I wore it around the dark and eerie streets of Knaresborough. What I feel this watch definitely does is showcase impressive craftsmanship with intricate textures that evoke the ruggedness of mountains and the fluidity of seas, and the process behind its creation is nothing short of remarkable in many ways. Precision stamping, CNC engraving, and that magical heating treatment that results in a surface reminiscent to delicate ice flowers. So in the end, whether you see it as a beautiful expression of creativity or a heavy-duty beast, one thing is absolutely clear, that the Shan Hai demands attention. A definite conversation starter, and I can't wait to hear where you land on the beauty versus beast spectrums. If you like weird looking watches, then why not take a look at my review of the Axis Gothic Ages as I road test it in and around the lovely town of Bruges in Belgium. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a spooky day.